On Father's Day, I woke up early as usual, eager to start the day. My wife and daughters were still asleep, so I knew it would be a while before they joined me. Every year, I would treat my wife to a special day, just like she did for Mother's Day. Breakfast would consist of a delicious spread, complete with freshly squeezed orange juice. For lunch, I'd prepare a delightful cheese, fruit, and nut plate, accompanied by a fine white wine. Dinner would feature her favorite steak and baked potato, perfectly paired with a Cabernet Sauvignon. When the girls were little, they used to help me with the preparations and pamper our mom. But as they grew into teenagers, they became less involved, leaving me to handle the spoiling on my own. It didn't bother me, though. I was happy to make my family's special day memorable. On Father's Day, I looked forward to my wife surprising me with a special breakfast. Usually I'd eat something small early in the morning, but on this day, I waited for her to wake up and cook for me. She'd usually sleep in on weekends, so this was a treat. When she finally woke up, she greeted me with a kiss and a happy Father's Day before starting to prepare breakfast for the family. Later, we enjoyed a fun lunch at a Doctor Who-themed sandwich cafe, making it a memorable day for all of us. In a well-organized kitchen, a couple relies on a calendar to keep track of important dates and events. From holidays to school activities, every detail is meticulously recorded. One day, the wife notices that the husband's birthday coincides with Father's Day, but he takes it in stride and jokingly asks for two gifts. Katie laughed. "I'll definitely do something special for you this year." As I left the kitchen, I couldn't help but think about the upcoming celebrations. I hoped she had something extra in mind. During our lovemaking sessions, intimate moments were often part of foreplay, but on birthdays and Father's Day, she would go above and beyond. It was a special tradition we shared, and I looked forward to it each year. My excitement for my special day was growing, but something felt off in our house. My wife's behavior was unusual, staying late at work, snapping at us, and dressing up more for her job. As a bake shop manager at the local grocery store, she never wore makeup before, but she started to wear a smock that showed off her cleavage. On the Friday before my birthday, she went out without me, and I couldn't help but wonder what was going on. She rarely went out with the girls alone, but enjoyed spending time with a close-knit group of married couples. If she was invited to drinks, she'd inform me of the location, and I'd join them later. He wasn't overly restrictive, she simply preferred his company. Their strong marriage was built on small acts of consideration. He also preferred staying within their social circle, and they enjoyed quiet nights and watching movies together. That Friday, she descended the stairs dressed up, catching me off guard. She wore a new short skirt, stockings, and high heels. Her freshly tanned skin and styled hair added to her allure. I whistled. "Wow, honey, did we have plans to go out tonight? I'll get dressed quickly," she replied. "No, Bill. I'm meeting some coworkers. Since the kids are going out too, you can order a pizza for yourself." I was taken aback by her sudden plans, not mentioned earlier. "You didn't tell me you had plans. I thought we'd watch our shows together." A brief look of fear flashed across her face before she composed herself. "Sorry, baby. I was asked to join them today." He looked at her, a mix of confusion and anger in his eyes. "You just found out about it today, and in the short time you had off work, you changed your outfit, got a tan, and styled your hair?" He couldn't help but feel suspicious. She was the perfect suburban soccer mom, always taking care of their family. Their relationship was strong, with a regular and loving connection. She defended herself. "I worked a half day today and wanted to look nice for a change. There's no reason for you to think otherwise." Her words stung as she left the room, leaving him questioning their relationship and wondering what had truly changed. I stayed up late, waiting for her return. She came in just before midnight, her hair tied back in a ponytail instead of the styled look I expected. She walked past me without a word, heading upstairs. Soon, I heard the shower running. I couldn't help but wonder what. I needed a shower before bed. She didn't say goodnight or come down. I knew something was off in our perfect life, but didn't know how bad it was. Saturday morning, I worked in retail management. Usually my routine would wake her, and she'd give me a goodbye kiss. This time I got nothing. It left me shocked. When I arrived at the store, I saw Missy waiting near the entrance. Missy was the friendly barista at the coffee shop inside the large store. She had a charming smile and her eyes were a striking blue. Though happily married, I couldn't help but admire her. I've always had a fondness for redheads. "Hey, Bill," Missy greeted me as I approached the entrance. We still had half an hour before the store opened. The night crew could have let her in, but she mentioned once that she didn't feel comfortable being alone in the store with a group of guys. Good morning, Missy, I replied, as I unlocked the doors for both of us. What's wrong, Bill? You look like you've got the world on your shoulders. Apologies. I've just got a lot on my mind today. Missy raised an eyebrow, but didn't press the matter further. Give me a few minutes, and I'll have a cup of our best ready for you. I replied with a polite smile. I'll be back soon. I secured the doors as she hurried to prepare the cafe for the busy morning ahead. I knew the morning would be hectic, as it always was at our small coffee shop. I checked in with the teams working on their respective areas as I walked around. Although my department managers were skilled, I still conducted a walkthrough in the morning. It wasn't strictly necessary, but it allowed me to greet my team and chat briefly. Building rapport with my team members was important, and I believe they appreciated the effort. Finally, I reached the coffee shop where Missy had my large black coffee waiting. Here you go, sir. 1 cup of our best coffee. Thank you. I placed $2 on the counter. No, sir. It's on the house today. No, I insist on paying. I can't risk someone getting upset and reporting me to corporate. She looked surprised. Sir, I didn't mean you. I know that. It's just not worth the risk. There are times when I have to make tough decisions like denying a day off or cutting overtime. I can't afford any additional complications. All right, sir. I understand. I waved goodbye and took a sip of my coffee. Occasionally, employees would receive free coffee, but it was hard to track. Who'd want to monitor that anyway? It would be too much work for a cheap cup of coffee. I couldn't imagine spending hours reviewing videos to ensure everyone paid. Being at the top had its challenges. Employees would get upset over trivial matters. Once I even had HR called on me for enforcing the employee parking policy. Parking in the back lot warranted a call to HR? Absurd. The day ended without any major incidents. The most excitement I had was witnessing an elderly lady steal cat food and birdseed. It was the perfect low-key day I needed. I was occupied enough that I didn't dwell on my issues with my wife, but I still managed to complete all my tasks on time. Upon entering the house, I found my wife and daughters leaving. For a moment I was taken aback, but I checked the calendar. Bye, Daddy, my daughters each said, giving me a kiss on the cheek. My wife didn't say anything. They were heading to a concert with some other moms and daughters. The plan had been in place for a while, and as usual, I had forgotten about it. I hoped I'd get a chance to talk to Katie and figure out what was going on. I disliked not knowing what she did the night before. After not thinking about it all day, I had no choice but to ruminate on it that night. I decided to investigate further. I browsed through her emails, but knew it would be fruitless. Emails were rarely used nowadays. I couldn't access her texts or call logs since she had her phone. I then checked the hamper, hoping to find something from the night before, but it was Saturday, and she had done laundry. My efforts were unsuccessful, and after watching a movie, I went to bed without finding any answers. I awoke the next morning, celebrating both my birthday and Father's Day. I started my day as usual, having a couple of pieces of toast and a cup of coffee. I sat outside on the patio, enjoying the beautiful morning. The birds were singing, and I wondered what surprises awaited me on this special day. At 9 o'clock, I entered the living room to refill my coffee and was startled to find my wife and daughters packing a lunch. What's going on? I inquired, puzzled as to why they were preparing for an outing without me. Jill, my daughter, explained, "We're going to the beach." "Oh," I exclaimed, before heading upstairs to change for the beach. As I donned my shirt, Jenny, another daughter, called out, "Bye, Daddy. See you later." The door closed, and I watched from the window as my family drove away. I couldn't believe it. I didn't expect the girls to remember my birthday, and I often had to remind them about their mother's birthday and Mother's Day, but I never thought Katie would forget. I descended the stairs, feeling down, when my phone rang. I quickly approached it, hoping it was someone who realized the situation and would inform me they'd return for me. But it wasn't the case. It was my mom. "Hey, Billy! Happy birthday and Father's Day!" "Thanks, Mom. By the way, does Katie have any plans for you two today?" "Nope. She took the girls to the beach a little while ago." "Really? That's not like her. I would have bet she'd make you a nice breakfast and make it a special day for you." "Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on right now, honestly." "Well, don't worry about it. She probably has something special planned for later. I need to go to church now. Love you, Billy." "Love you, Mom." One couldn't help but admire my mom's optimism. She loved Katie as if she were her own daughter. They had regular visits since my dad passed away a few years prior. I was preoccupied with my marriage's situation when the phone rang again. "Bill, There was an incident at the coffee shop this morning, my assistant manager, Anne, said. What happened? I asked, concerned. Missy was on a ladder when a customer bumped her. She lost her balance and fell, Anne explained. Oh no, is she all right? I asked, worried. She's at St. Alex's getting x-rays. She might have a broken arm or something, Anne reported. Poor girl. Did you get shift coverage? I asked, relieved to hear she was receiving medical attention. Yes, we're all set. I just wanted to update you before you came in tomorrow. Happy Father's Day, Anne said. Thanks, Anne. I hope Missy recovers quickly, I replied. Don't worry about it, Anne. Thanks for the call. I hoped Missy would be all right. I searched around the house aimlessly and realized they weren't coming back, so I headed to IHOP for breakfast. It wasn't the best decision for my emotions. The wait was long, and the place was filled with happy families celebrating fathers and grandfathers. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness, so I left before things got too overwhelming. I drove through McDonald's drive-thru instead, grabbing a big breakfast with coffee and orange juice. The pancakes turned out to be surprisingly delicious as I sat in the park, enjoying my meal with a plastic fork and knife. I gazed out at the small lake where I used to take my girls paddle boating when they were little. They loved the water, whether it be swimming, boating, or even fishing. The lake held so many happy memories. As they approached college age, the siblings gradually lost interest in fishing trips with their dad. Instead, they preferred spending time with their mother, which was understandable. Shopping for clothes with Dad might not have been the most exciting activity for a young girl. By 1 p.m., the narrator's wife hadn't checked in, so he assumed they wouldn't be having lunch together. He went to the Doctor Who cafe and ordered a sandwich with a playful name related to the show, like the revolution of the Daleks' Reuben. As a 40-year-old man who wasn't quite in tune with what was trendy, he snapped a photo of his meal and shared it on Facebook. I received typical likes and Father's Day wishes from friends and colleagues. Interestingly, my mother-in-law thought I was at the beach with my wife and daughters, as she commented on a beach photo my wife posted on Facebook. After finishing my lunch, I decided to watch a sports game and have a drink at the bar near my house. The bar was too crowded, so I went to the cigar lounge next door and treated myself to an expensive Opus X cigar. I enjoyed the Sox game, and two men playing cards invited me to join them. I'm Bill, I said, introducing myself to the older gentleman. I'm Lance, and this is my brother Jerry. Nice to meet you both. They began a friendly card game, inviting me to join. Help yourself, Bill, Lance said, gesturing to a cooler. Accepted a Miller Lite. No kids? Jerry inquired, smirking. I replied, my wife and daughters are at the beach. They don't know what day it is. Lance sympathized. Sucks. I don't see my boys much. They're in the service. Jerry shared his experience. My baby girl lives in California. My grandson just turned 2. I'm visiting next week. We continued our game, bonding over our shared experiences as parents. After some casual conversation, Jerry inquired, do you think she truly forgot, or is she deliberately avoiding you? We both pondered this question. I shared recent events leading up to Friday night's difficulties, and they expressed sympathy. She's cheating on you, Lance concluded, to which Jerry agreed. Initially shocked, I realized this explanation was most plausible, despite my denial. Listen, Bill, Lance said. I've been through a tough situation before. The change in behavior, the unexpected nights out, the disrespect. I've experienced it all. My wife and a coworker, well, let's just say they became too close for comfort. When I found out, it was a turning point in my life. I ended up divorcing her, and it was the biggest mistake I ever made. What? I snapped. She cheated on you? How could divorcing her be a mistake? In my mind, there was no valid excuse. Cheating was the end of a marriage, plain and simple. Period. End of story. Bill, for 5 years I paid alimony and child support, feeling lonely and missing her. We both had our own loneliness at each other's places. I was too hesitant to forgive her when I found out about the cheating. After 7 years, we reunited, and now we're happy together. Wow, I said. It's unbearable to think of my wife giving herself to another man. If she's having an affair, she either forgot my birthday because she's too involved with her lover, or she's deliberately ignoring me. Neither situation is acceptable. Lance nodded. Bill, if you truly care for her, learn to forgive her. It'll benefit you in the long run. Thanks, Lance. You've given me a lot to think about. But inside, I knew I was crazy to consider forgiving her for her betrayal. I couldn't imagine reconciling after her affair. We parted ways, shaking hands and wishing each other well. Later that evening, I was on the couch browsing Facebook when I stumbled upon my family's posts, filled with pictures of their joyous day. The sight only deepened my sadness. All right, I thought. I needed to be strong and stop feeling like a lost soul. My wife accidentally missed my birthday. It happens. She forgot Father's Day too. Oh well, what matters is that I suspected she might have been unfaithful on Friday night, and possibly many times before, given her strange behavior lately. Her reminding me had to be her way of getting back at me. Well, she succeeded in ending things. It was time to move on with my life. I chose to visit my favorite restaurant for dinner. I knew it would be busy, but I had nothing better to do. So I freshened up, put on a nice sport coat and slacks, and went out for a steak. While waiting for a table at the steakhouse, I sat at the bar. An older man took the seat next to me, filling the open spot. He noticed the single glass next to the champagne bottle and furrowed his brow. He didn't comment, instead ordering a martini. The bartender refilled my glass. The man couldn't resist asking, "Celebrating or did you take someone's spot?" I replied, "I'm here alone." He acknowledged and sipped his drink. He seemed talkative, possibly in sales. He shared, "I'm waiting for my family. My wife's helping our injured daughter, who broke her arm today. She's struggling with using her left hand." He chuckled and added, "You never expect your adult kids to have accidents." I agreed, nodding in understanding. "Looks like I'll be cooking for myself for a few weeks. My wife is going to have to take care of the kids and leave me on my own." My head snapped up. "What did you say?" Before he could answer, a little girl shrieked, "Grandpa!" from across the room and dashed through the crowded bar. A little flop of red curls jumped onto his lap and lavished the man with hugs and kisses. A moment later I heard, "Bill!" I turned and saw Missy, and who I presumed to be her mother, standing next to me. Her mother was her spitting image. Except for a few lines around the eyes, they looked exactly alike. "Hi, Missy. How's your arm?" "It's okay. I'm on some strong pain meds, so I'm not feeling much. It hurt like hell." When they said it, though. Missy introduced her parents, Jack and Mary, and her daughter Mia to me. "Where's your wife, Bill?" Missy asked. "I don't know. She took my girls to the beach this morning, and I haven't heard from them all day." "On Father's Day?" "Worse, it's also my birthday today." "Oh no! Did she blow you off on the best day of the year for you? What's her problem?" I hesitated to discuss it further. Mary insisted, "You must join us." Jack chuckled. "Don't forget it isn't pretty when they gang up on you." "But it's our day, Jack." "Dad," he winked at me as the buzzer for their table went off. "Settle up your tab, Bill, and meet us at our table. No bailing on us," he said with a playful tone. He threw a 20 on the bar and walked off. "Sorry, Bill. My parents can be eccentric." "No worries, Missy. I suppose it's better than eating alone." The dinner conversation was filled with laughter. Bill and I shared stories of our daughters growing up, and Mia asked questions about our childhood. She giggled constantly at the amusing tales of her mom as a child. After dinner, my phone rang. I saw it was my wife and ignored the call, placing the phone on the table. "Your wife?" Mary asked. "Yes." "It's more than you're letting on, isn't it?" "I think so, but I have no proof." "Bill, everyone makes mistakes," Mary said, looking at Jack. "Maybe you can find a way to forgive her." Missy's head snapped over and she glared at Mary. I called the waiter over and handed him my credit card. "Well, I've destroyed enough of your meeting. Thank you for inviting me to share your meal." "Bill, let me—" "No, Jack. It was my honor to eat with you, and especially one of my favorite employees. It's on me. Happy Father's Day." I shook their hands and walked over to the table to pick up the check. I didn't have solid proof she was cheating on me, but 2 people had already told me to forgive her. What was wrong with people? My phone rang repeatedly, and I ignored it. When I pulled into my garage, my 2 excited kids ran towards me, showering me with kisses and hugs. They apologized for forgetting Father's Day. "Don't worry about it," I said. "I don't expect you to remember when my birthday is." "It's your birthday!" Jill screamed, running into the house. "Daddy, we didn't know. I'm so sorry," she cried into my chest. "You must hate us." "No, baby. I love you more than life itself." When she suggested going to the beach today, we eagerly agreed. We didn't think, "Don't worry, honey. I'm not upset with you." I didn't mention my frustration with her mother, but that was my issue, not yours. Let's head inside now. I navigated through the living room, avoiding the heated discussion between my wife and daughters, and went upstairs to change. After putting on shorts and a tank top, I returned to find my wife crying alone. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. I shook my head and stepped out onto the deck with a drink and a cigar. The night was lovely, and I relished the peacefulness, focusing on work instead of my wife for a change, when the sliding door opened. She avoided eye contact and didn't walk out any further on the deck. "Bill," she hesitated, "who is the man you were with on Friday?" My anger flared. I heard the door shut, but she didn't come out to face me. She didn't deny it, and I knew that visiting a divorce lawyer was inevitable. After nearly 20 years of marriage, it was all crumbling down. I couldn't help but think of her as a foolish choice. Doubt began to creep in. How long had she been unfaithful? Was he her first? Did I know him? Were the girls truly mine? Negative thoughts swirled in my mind as I experienced the pain of betrayal. As part of the divorce, I insisted on paternity tests for the girls. It wasn't just for my peace of mind, but also to cause Katie some embarrassment. I spent the rest of the night researching divorce laws on the internet before falling asleep on the couch. What a way to spend my birthday. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I woke up early at a gloomy 5 in the morning. In my bedroom, I found Katie sleeping peacefully, curled up around my pillow. It was amusing how serene she appeared compared to how restless my night had been. Her uncovered body, with just her panties on, was a sight to behold. It was a shame she wasn't mine anymore. I knew I would miss her. I quickly grabbed my clothes and took a shower, managing to escape the room without waking her. Jill was waiting for me in the hallway. "How bad is it, Daddy?" I sighed. "It's as bad as it gets." "Can you forgive her? I mean, it's just forgetting a day." "Dad, she didn't forget my birthday or Father's Day. I think she's cheating on me." He gasped. "No, sweetie, I don't think she would." "But Dad, think about it. She's been acting strange lately. On Friday night, she went out dressed up and got her hair done. That wasn't for me." She shook her head. "And on Saturday and Sunday, she avoided me. She must have been feeling guilty or angry. When has she ever taken you to the beach without me? That's always a family thing." "What if it's not an affair? What if it was just once? Can't you forgive her for that?" "I don't know, Dad. At no point this weekend did she act like she loved me." "Dad, you should have seen Jenny's reaction when Grandma asked her why she didn't call Grandpa for Father's Day. She dropped the phone and screamed, 'No!' so loud we thought something was wrong with Grandpa." He's okay. Mom was so upset she cried on the floor. Jenny thought we should call an ambulance for her. We calmed her down and she called you." "Jill, I'm not sure what you want me to say. She doesn't love me. Cheating on a spouse isn't an act of love. It's selfishness. Love should be selfless. When she got close to another man, she pushed me away." She hugged me and cried. I bet it wasn't just some random guy. She must have been flirting or letting him flirt with her. There would have been intimate touches, maybe some kissing and caressing, all leading up to the first time they had sex. All of those actions before the sex are betraying your spouse. You can't be in love with someone and show someone else affection. Please don't divorce her. I have to go to work now. We'll talk later." She entered Jenny's room, ready to share the conversation they had. No more secrets would exist within their family. How long would their family last? Katie was too preoccupied at work to contact her, giving her a peaceful day. The only thing that made it different was handling Missy's accident paperwork. She'd receive workman's comp for her time off, and she hoped Missy wouldn't struggle too much. They didn't know much about her personal life, just that she wasn't married. Missy came in to sign the forms and complete her report. With her left hand struggling, she wrote it out for her. "How are things at home?" she asked. "This isn't good." She didn't confirm it when I brought up her affair. "Darn it, Bill. I'm sorry. I can tell you're hurting. My ex-husband cheated on me when I was pregnant. I kicked him out before my daughter was even born. My mom was really upset with me. She basically called me a quitter." "Wow. I found it strange when your mom talked about forgiving my wife last night. She was looking right at your father when she said it." "Yeah, I noticed that too. I'm not sure which one did it, but it makes me think one of them wasn't faithful." "I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. They seem happy, so they can live however they want. I've decided not to trust anyone who cheats." "Me too," I agreed firmly. Katie wasn't home when I arrived from work. I suspected she was with her friend and felt worried. I drove to her workplace to check. In the parking lot, I saw her car with her inside, talking to someone. When she noticed me, she screamed, "No!" and tried to stop me from leaving. I drove away, feeling hurt and betrayed. At home, Jenny and Jill were crying, begging me to stay. "Daddy, there must be a mistake," they said. "Girls, I saw something today. A woman had a man in her car after work. She can't say they were just eating lunch. There's no innocent explanation for being in the back of the parking lot with a man in her car." "Dad, please don't break up our family," Jenny cried. "Honey, your mother broke up our family. This isn't my fault." I comforted them, giving each a kiss on the cheek. I'll be in touch every day. I left them crying in the bedroom, then walked to the garage. As I pulled out, I almost got hit by Katie, who pulled in like a bat out of hell. I shook my head and drove on. The following week was an unbearable nightmare. I ignored my wife's hourly calls for 3 days, deleting each message she left. After that, family members urged me to talk to her, but no one would confirm if she had cheated. Frustrated, I stopped answering calls from everyone, except my daughters, who eventually understood my seriousness. At the end of the week, I met with a lawyer. I sought a fair division of our assets. I wanted to give my ex-wife the house until our daughters moved out, then sell it. My lawyer suggested I could receive more than half of the house proceeds due to my larger contributions to the down payment and monthly payments. However, I insisted on a simple, equal split. I assumed alimony or maintenance was inevitable, but to my relief, I discovered that since my wife had a stable income, she wouldn't require any financial support from me. This was the best news in a long time, as I wouldn't have to pay her for her affair. In the midst of it all, I discovered a hidden strength within myself. I stood firm, facing the onslaught of her family's attacks. I knew I had to protect myself and my future. With determination, I navigated the legal system, seeking justice and fairness. Through it all, I remained steadfast, knowing that the truth would prevail. She claimed to have only met with the kid once on that Friday before my birthday, and that's what she told everyone happened. I was labeled as the problem for not allowing her to clarify. No explanation would have been seen as acceptable. My mother accused me of being a coward for not defending my marriage. My wife's mother said we were even because I wasn't there for her during difficult times. The girls said I should stay with the family to avoid scarring them for life. It was surreal. Though I was blameless, I was still being held responsible for the divorce. Tensions rose when I made my daughters give me their saliva for a DNA test. They refused until I lied, telling them it was a court order. Katie sent me a letter to my store, sharing her experience. She got caught up in the attention of a young man, only 21 years old. They had a brief encounter in the backseat of his car, but the experience was disappointing. Good looks don't always guarantee great chemistry or quick recovery. After catching her with the young man, Katie asked him to stay away from her. However, the damage was done, as cheating once is enough to end a relationship. After receiving the letter, I didn't need to prove adultery for the divorce. She had done it herself, making the process easier. I wouldn't have to argue for irreconcilable differences or prove we tried to save the marriage. It seemed like karma was finally on my side. When the judge saw my proposed terms and the letter confirming the adultery, he granted the divorce in 60 days. However, I found myself isolated, alone on an island of desolation. I didn't speak to my ex-wife, and because of that, I was seen as immature and a jerk. My mother and daughters stopped talking to me too. It hurt, but I knew I was standing on the right side of the situation. I faithfully called my daughters every other day. Though they never answered, I left voicemails updating them on my life and inquiring about theirs. I took responsibility for our communication issues and made sure to reach out to them regularly, regardless of their feelings. My routine changed when I started meeting Missy for coffee on Sundays. We first met at a local cafe when we coincidentally bumped into each other. Missy and her daughter Mia lived nearby and were out for a walk. I invited them to join me, while Mia entertained herself with cartoons on my iPad. "I'm sure your daughters will come around, Bill," she said. "They're still young and open to new ideas, so there's hope." I hope you're right. I just hope they haven't completely changed their views. The following week, I visited the same cafe at the same time, and was reading when I heard, "Hey, stranger." I looked up and saw the friendly faces of the two girls. They joined me at my table. "Is this a regular thing for you, or are you following us?" one of them asked with a grin. "No, I just live nearby and enjoy having a cup of coffee and reading on Sunday mornings. It's nice to have some quiet time." We continued to chat about the neighborhood and shared some laughs before saying our goodbyes. It wasn't a conscious decision to meet every Sunday, but we did. I enjoyed her company, and little Mia was a delight. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. On the day we celebrated our daughter's school musical, I knocked on my old home's front door. My wife answered it, and it was clear she'd been crying. She didn't say a word, she just motioned me inside. "Are the girls home?" I asked. "They are watching a musical at the school. I know why you're here. I expected you to come over today." "Is that so?" I asked with a smile. "You waited until it was too late to—" "Stop it, didn't you?" "Yes," I said. I knew that you'd try to convince me to change my mind and give our marriage another chance, but I couldn't let that happen. You hurt me deeply, and I can't forget that. Bill, I can't believe you're holding this against me. It was just one mistake. Why can't you see how much I loved you? I tried to explain. He laughed. Was that love when you were flirting with that guy? When you were hiding things from me? When you spent all your time with him instead of me? When you left me alone on my birthday? I started to cry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I loved you too. He shook his head. You broke my heart, Katie, and you turned my family against me. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for that. That's your fault for being unreasonable. I took a deep breath and calmly responded, we should all work together to resolve this issue and move forward. Because of your actions, they might grow up thinking you're the hero and I'm the villain, but it's not that simple. It's not just about one incident. I gently pushed her away and said, we can't keep living like this. We need to move on and find happiness elsewhere. I left the room, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. A few weeks later, Missy knocked on my office door. Got a second, Bill? Of course, come on in, I smiled, hoping she had good news. Missy hesitated before speaking. Bill, I was wondering, is it against company policy to date other employees? I frowned, disappointed that she brought up the issue instead of addressing my earlier comment. Our company has a strict anti-harassment policy in place. This policy ensures that any issues between co-workers following a breakup are their responsibility, not the company's. She smiled. I'm glad our policy is clear. By the way, I wrote down my address and phone number on file for you. I hope you can join me and Mia for dinner tomorrow night. I appreciated her gesture and looked forward to the dinner. Hi, it's Dad checking in. I hope all is well with you and your sister. Usual stuff in my world, except I met someone at work for dinner. I love you and miss you. Please call me soon. Bye. I knew leaving that message might cause some confusion, but I still didn't explain. I had to move on, and I was excited about meeting someone new. Missy was a beautiful woman with an even more beautiful personality. Her daughter was precocious and adorable, and I already met her parents. I felt like I was finally making progress. It was only 15 minutes later when Katie texted me. I can't believe you're moving on already. You're a real surprise. I chuckled when I read it. I never realized how delusional she was. To think I would sit and worry over her was unreasonable. Maybe some people would be upset about the end of their marriage due to a cheating spouse. But that wasn't me. I was young enough at 41 to find love again. In fact, I was young enough to have more kids if I wanted. That was something to consider. Missy was in her early 30s. She might want more children in the future. I knew it was too early to think about such things, but as a single mother, those qualities might be important to Missy when considering a potential partner. I'm sure she was looking for a husband, not just a plaything. Although I certainly wouldn't mind being her plaything. It had been months since I had been intimate. The following evening, I took a shower and trimmed my facial hair, opting for a casual outfit. Satisfied with my appearance, I admired my fit physique, free of any signs of aging. Content with my job and financial stability, I felt confident about my prospects in the dating world. As I thought about dating a younger woman like Missy, I realized I hadn't considered the nuances of courtship. Married life had provided a steady routine, with familiarity breeding comfort. Hand-holding, kissing, and intimate moments were all expected. Navigating this new chapter, I recognized the need to rediscover the art of seduction and the joy of exploring intimacy anew. I had a deep understanding of my ex-wife's preferences in bed. I knew when she wanted a passionate or gentle touch, and where to stimulate her for maximum pleasure. I hoped my next partner would enjoy the same things, or be open to discussing them. I worried that I might not be ready for dating and had rushed into it. I arrived at Mia's townhouse with a gift in hand, a bottle of wine, flowers, and a stuffed animal. I hoped these would endear me to her. When she opened the door, I was taken aback by her appearance. Her curly red hair framed her face, and she wore just the right amount of makeup. She wore a modest sundress that fell just below her knees, highlighting her legs. Barefoot, she had hot pink nail polish on her fingernails and toenails. She playfully asked, "Do I look okay?" "Absolutely," I replied, not regretting it. She chuckled and took the flowers and wine from me. "Mia's watching TV. You can say hi. She'll love the bear." She went into the kitchen, and I knelt next to Mia. "Hi, sweetie, I brought you a bear." She hesitated. Then her face lit up in a smile as she took the bear. She ran off to show her friend Missy, bear in arms. She reminisced about Jenny and Jill's childhood days, realizing it had been a while since she last spoke to them. She missed them deeply. "What's wrong?" Missy inquired, pulling her out of her thoughts. "Nothing," she replied, forcing a smile. "Just remembering my daughters when they were Mia's age." Missy asked, "Is everything okay now?" "Not really," she sighed. "Katie turned the girls against me, and I can't get them to see me. I still leave them messages every other day, though." "I'm sorry, Bill," Missy sympathized. "It must be tough for you." "It is," she agreed. "I know they listen to my messages. I told them about our date tonight, and Katie texted me, calling me a jerk for moving on so quickly." "Is everything okay?" she asked, concern in her eyes. "You seem a bit uneasy." "No, it's just that I'm not used to such forwardness," I admitted, blushing slightly. "But I appreciate your honesty." She smiled, her eyes twinkling. "Well, let's enjoy our dinner, and maybe we can chat more while we're on the couch." "Wow, I didn't realize how much buzz your divorce has created around here," she said with a smile. "It's no surprise that many of the single ladies are taking notice of you. You're an attractive, fit man who's smart, stable, and we all know how you value loyalty." I felt a sense of pride as I sat down at her table. "I'm glad I got here early," she mentioned. I held her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "I appreciate you too." Mia, not wanting to be left out, chimed in. "Sketty's my favorite." "Me too," I agreed. "The slurpier the better." My eyes caught sight of the can of Parmesan cheese on the table, and I added, "And don't forget the extra stinky cheese." She giggled and corrected me. "It's not stinky cheese. It's Parma. Stinky cheese," I said, holding the can to my nose and pretending to wrinkle my face. "Wow, that's quite a strong smell." Missy rolled her eyes as I passed the can to Mia. She took a sniff, smiled, and poured some onto her spaghetti. We kept the dinner conversation light, focusing on Mia's preschool class and her friends. She happily shared stories, and I listened intently. Missy watched us, smiling, but remained quiet throughout the conversation. As we continued to chat, I noticed Missy getting up to clear the table. "Let me help," I offered. She shook her head and replied, "Oh no, she hasn't told you about her favorite TV shows yet." She chuckled as Mia excitedly told her about her favorite cartoons. Once Mia was asleep, Missy joined me on the couch. I handed her a glass of juice, and she smiled as she propped her feet on the ottoman. "Being a mom is amazing, but this is my favorite part of the day too." I put my arm around her, and she leaned into me. "I can only imagine how tough it is with 2 kids." I sighed. "It's definitely a challenge, but we're trying our best. I hope they'll come around eventually." Missy kissed my cheek. "You're a great dad. Keep working on your relationship with them." She set her glass down and sat back. "Bill, I've already expressed my feelings for you, and at my age, I don't want to play games. I'd like to continue seeing you, including inviting you into my bedroom." She held up her shushing finger. "I understand you want to be a gentleman, but that's not what I'm looking for. I want to be clear. I don't want to be your casual partner or friend with benefits. I'm seeking an exclusive relationship. As a mother, I want a husband for myself and my daughter, and I believe you could be that person." I've noticed that conversations like this often lead to the guy running away. I'm not assuming you're like that, but I want to give you a choice. If you want to explore your single life and have fun, I won't be the one to hold you back. But if you're interested in giving our potential future a shot, I'm all in. I was surprised by her words. "Wow, did you plan that out, or was it just off the top of your head?" She frowned, thinking I was questioning her sincerity. "Missy, we've worked together for 3 years. These recent coffee meetings have been enjoyable. I've always been a family-oriented person, and I'm not sure how to be single. The idea of dating is really scary for me. If my wife had been faithful, I'd still be a happily married family man. I don't want to play the field." She smiled and took my hand. "You're kind, funny, and you make a great spaghetti." I laughed and playfully slapped her shoulder. "I'd like to be your friend. Let's work together to create something positive for all of us, including your little girl." We didn't share a special moment that night. Although I wanted to express my feelings more, I thought taking things slow would be best for both of us. She seemed to care deeply, but I believed taking our time would be better for everyone's comfort. One day, I received a wonderful opportunity when an application arrived for a manager position I had been looking to fill. I never knew the punk kid who ended my marriage, but when he applied for my overnight manager job, I remembered him. I had Anne hire him without him knowing it was me. On his second night of work, I waited in the parking lot. I placed a 40-inch TV from a competitor in his car's back seat. The TV matched the one in our stockroom, and I knew it was missing. In the morning, I timed my arrival to coincide with his shift ending. I walked him out to his car, chatting about his team. As we approached his car, I noticed a TV in the back seat. "Jeff, did you buy the TV before your shift?" I asked, pretending to be shocked. "No, Bill, that's not mine. I don't know how it got there." "Jeff, we need to go back into the store." "Bill, check the cameras." Reluctantly, I agreed. "All right, bring the TV." We returned to the store, and the kid was visibly scared. The store didn't have overnight security since it closed at night and had a night crew. Instead, cameras were installed everywhere, with only managers having access to the room controlling them. A camera faced the door, but it was above a stairwell doorway. The issue was reported to corporate security years ago, but it remained unresolved. To disable the system, one could open the stairwell door, reach up, cover the camera, and unplug the computer running the system. When I let him into the room and noticed the computer wasn't functioning, he became frantic, vehemently denying any wrongdoing as I contacted the authorities according to protocol. Ultimately, the young man received a misdemeanor conviction and avoided jail time. I had wished for a longer sentence, but the stolen TV wasn't valuable enough. Instead, he faced an extensive community service requirement and a hefty fine, which surprisingly exceeded my TV's cost. A felony on his record made finding a retail job challenging, but it didn't compensate for the risks I took. As a silver lining, corporate provided a long-awaited security upgrade, including parking lot cameras. On a chilly Saturday morning, a week after a dinner meeting, he noticed Missy waiting in her car to stay warm. After parking next to her, she greeted him with a warm kiss. "Are we still on for dinner tonight?" she inquired. "Absolutely," he replied. "I've got something special I'm making for us. You won't want to miss it." "I wouldn't," she said, excitement in her voice. Just then, Katie appeared from behind him, interrupting their conversation. "Excuse me?" Missy shouted, her tone revealing her annoyance. "Katie, what do you want?" he asked, trying to maintain a calm demeanor. "I've been trying to reach you. Did you block my number?" Katie inquired, her voice tinged with curiosity. "Yes. After our many conversations about me making a mistake, I had enough. What do you want?" "I want to discuss our daughter's future. We need to sort out college plans. They can choose their own paths. I've ensured they have the financial support they need. I'd like to be involved, but since you've caused a rift, they won't talk to me. They worry you won't follow through with college payments. Of course, I'll cover the costs. I still care for them, despite the divorce." Missy chuckled. Katie frowned and said, "It's not my fault you couldn't accept my one mistake. Only once, because you weren't discreet about it. I addressed it right away. Regardless, we should still be a family and work together on this." "You're mistaken. You were involved in the events that led to the end of my marriage, the rift with my family, and my daughter's disapproval. I assure you, if I ever find out about a romantic interest of yours, you'll never experience a second date. No one wants to date someone with a history of betrayal, unless they're aware of your past and seeking a casual encounter." I walked towards the store. I heard voices behind me and turned to see Missy confronting Katie, with her finger in Katie's face. "Keep away from my man. You discarded him, and I picked up the pieces." I rushed back and separated them. "Enough, Missy. She's not worth the conflict." "You heard me, woman!" Missy shouted at Katie before heading towards the store. "Please leave, Katie. Our issues are in the past, and that's all your fault." I left her in tears near the cars. I rushed to catch up to Missy, who was panting. I took her hand, and she looked up, smiling as she calmed down. "I'm sorry, Bill. I must have been a bit overprotective." "Well, it's always nice to have people showing interest in you," I replied with a smile. We laughed and entered the building to focus on our work. Later that day, I received a call from my mom. When I said hello, she made a strange noise and the call was cut off. I heard a thud, but the line went dead. I hung up and dialed again, only to receive no answer. I called 911 to request an ambulance for my mom's home, and they informed me that another call had already been placed from her address. I worried and told Anne to watch out for me as I had to leave. She agreed, and as I hurried through the store, I dashed past Missy, who called after me. I didn't stop and went straight to my car. When I arrived at my mom's house, the ambulance was leaving, so I followed it. Upon reaching the hospital, I discovered my mom had already left before the ambulance arrived. She must have lost consciousness during our phone call. I sat in the emergency room lobby crying and thought about the last thing my mom said to me. What was she going to say? I wondered if it would have been, "I'm in trouble? I'm having a heart attack? I'm sorry?" My phone rang, and it was Missy. "Hey, my mom just died." Oh, Bill, I'm so sorry. Thanks, but I won't be good company tonight. Don't worry, I'll be with you. You need me. Please let me come over. All right, yeah, I said, not wanting to be alone. I was glad she agreed to be with me. I'm on my way home. Meet me there after you get off. Okay, see you soon. I ended the call and walked to my car. Instead of going home, I went to my old house. I needed to tell my girls, whether they wanted to see me or not. As I pulled up, I saw both girls' cars in the driveway and sighed. I never thought the first words we'd say to each other would be news like this. I didn't care that I hadn't been there in a while. I punched in the passcode for the garage door opener and stepped inside. I was relieved Katie's car wasn't there. I didn't feel like dealing with her. The living room and kitchen were empty, so I headed upstairs to the bedrooms. "Dad!" Jill exclaimed as I entered her room. "What do you want?" Jenny shouted, appearing behind me. "Did you come to beg? Well, you can go to—" "Grandma had a heart attack and passed away this morning," I said, interrupting her. They both gasped. "I just wanted to tell you in person. I'll be damned for it." I exited the room, closed the door, and left. I heard Jenny call for me to wait, but I rushed to my car and drove away. At the edge of a small frozen lake, a woman reminisced about the happy times spent with her daughters. As the water began to melt, she sat on a picnic bench, feeling a mix of sadness and confusion. The woman's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. She turned to see her ex-husband, Katie, and their daughters walking towards her. The sight of them brought a mix of emotions, as she tried to understand what she had done to drive them away. As they drew closer, the woman wondered if there was a way to mend the broken bonds with her daughters and find peace in their lives once more. "How did you find me here?" I asked, turning around to look out at the lake. "You didn't disconnect our Find a Phone app sync," Katie replied. "Bill, I'm sorry about your mom." "Yeah?" I spat. "Sorry for her death, or are you sorry that you turned her against me and she died without us reconciling?" She didn't say anything. "Leave me alone. I can't deal with your shoot right now," I continued. "I'll never forgive you for what you've done to me. The last words we spoke were her telling me she wouldn't speak to me again until I manned up and dropped the divorce. She didn't even say she loved me when she hung up on me. I'm so sorry, Bill, for everything." I heard her walk away and Jenny said, "Daddy, we're sorry too. Please forgive us for being bitches." I turned and both my daughters lunged at me to hug me. We cried into each other's arms for a moment. "It's not my fault, girls. Your mom's actions are why we're not together anymore." Jill spoke up. "We're sorry, Dad. We just think you should forgive her. She loves you. It's so clear." "Not enough to stay faithful to me, Jill. I'm sorry, girls. I'm so sorry." We hugged again, and Katie watched from her car. "Girls, I need you so much. You'll be leaving for college soon, and I'll miss you. We're wasting so much time." "We get it, Dad," Jenny said. "We won't shut you out anymore." Jill added, "And we wish your mom had a chance to do the same." "Dad, can we come to your new house? We haven't seen it yet. Maybe we could get a pizza?" "Of course, tell your mother and let's go." When I pulled into my driveway, I saw Missy's car. I'd forgotten she was coming over. "Girls, it looks like you're going to meet Missy." "Is she your friend?" they asked in unison, making me smile. "Yeah, well, I mean, we just started getting to know each other." "Look at him smile, Jenny. It's so sweet." They waved goodbye and walked into the house. They greeted Missy with enthusiasm, and I could see Missy was a bit surprised. "Girls, let her be. Move it inside and I'll introduce you all." They waved goodbye and walked into the house. They greeted Missy with enthusiasm, and I could see Missy was a bit surprised. "Girls, let her be. Move it inside and I'll introduce you all." They waved goodbye and walked into the house. They greeted Missy with enthusiasm, and I could see Missy was a bit surprised. "Girls, let her be. Move it inside and I'll introduce you all." They kissed my cheek and entered my garage while I walked over to a slightly confused Missy. "Sorry about that," I said as she opened her door. She smiled brightly and kissed my cheek. "Your daughters? All right, let's go introduce you to everyone. I hope I look presentable." I reassured her. "They'll think you're great." We walked in and I said, "Jenny, Jill, meet Missy." They gave her a warm hug. Jenny exclaimed, "You look fantastic." Jill added, "Nice job, Dad." Missy laughed, and I was caught off guard. "Now let's take a quick tour of the house and then we'll get things ready for Grandma's service." "I'll order some pizza," said my wife. "Perfect," I agreed. The girls cooed in delight. I chose to delay making the calls to inform people about my mom's passing until the following day. I planned to place an obituary in the Monday newspaper and share the service details on Facebook after visiting the funeral home on Sunday. After dinner, We entertained Missy with stories about my mom for hours. My daughters, not so subtly, shared some embarrassing stories about me for Missy's amusement. It wasn't my fault I slipped and fell into the lake when the pier was wet, I insist. Before I realized it, it was past 10 o'clock. Girls, we've been spending time together longer than we intended, and it's getting late. They pouted and inquired, "Can we stay the night?" "I don't have beds for the guest rooms yet. I tell you what, I'll pick you up in the morning and we'll go out to breakfast, okay? If you're up to it, I could use some help figuring out what to do with Grandma's stuff, too." "Sure, Dad. We'll help with whatever you need." "Thanks. Missy, want to go for a ride?" "She's staying with my parents." Jill jumped in. "Who's Mia?" "Mia is my 4-year-old daughter." They both squealed, and Jenny said, "Oh my God, I can't wait to meet her." Missy laughed at their excitement and said, "Someday soon, I promise." "All right, let's head out." "They're wonderful girls," Missy said as we sat on the couch shortly after returning to my house. "I'm glad you were able to get back together with them." I let out a deep breath. "I feel the same way. It's just hard losing her." She nestled into my embrace, and we both drifted off to sleep. When I awoke, she had covered us with a cozy blanket and was still snuggled against me. I longed for that kind of closeness with someone. I gently kissed her head and apologized. "I fell asleep on you." She mumbled, "It's fine, sweetheart. You had a tough day." "Would you like to come with me and the girls for breakfast?" I asked. "As long as Mia can come too. My parents have plans this morning." "Of course. The girls will adore having her with us." I picked up Mia from her mom's house and took her to IHOP to meet my daughters. As soon as they saw her, they embraced her with laughter and affection. Mia giggled and smiled, enjoying their playful antics until she suddenly exclaimed, "I gotta pee!" My daughters quickly volunteered to take her to the bathroom. As we sat down, I jokingly asked Missy if she thought our daughters would get along. She playfully slapped my shoulder and kissed my cheek, expressing her hope for a long-lasting friendship. Although it was early in our relationship, her optimism was both endearing and slightly unnerving. As we dined together, Mia and my daughters engaged in a lively conversation, discussing various topics. It was evident that Mia enjoyed talking and was genuinely interested in learning about my daughters' lives. My daughters, who were experienced babysitters, knew all the popular children's shows and movies, which helped them connect with Mia. Additionally, they got along well with Missy, and there was no animosity or tension in Mia dating her. After my divorce, my daughters had refused to speak with me for months, but their sudden acceptance of Mia puzzled me. I decided to seek an explanation from my daughters about their change in attitude. After a tiring day of making calls, cleaning my mom's house, and visiting the funeral home, I finally had a chance to unwind. The girls returned to my house for dinner, but Missy and Mia went their separate ways after breakfast. Missy believed it would be too emotional for us and wanted to avoid the discomfort of Mia questioning everything as we sorted through my mom's belongings. "Dad, do you like Missy?" Jenny asked unexpectedly. "Well, we've only met a few times outside of work," I replied. "It's too soon to say we're in love." "Okay, Dad," Jill said with a hint of playfulness. "Have you ever seen those old-timey cartoons where the girls' eyes flutter and they fold their hands next to their cheek as they look at their prince?" I nodded, taking a bite of my pizza. "Well, she practically has hearts floating around her head as she looks at you and bats her eyes," Jill continued. Before I could deny it, they both looked at each other, then at me, and said, "We like her." My happiness at seeing my daughters turned to anger. I dropped my slice onto my plate, wiped my hands, and went to the sink. I leaned on the counter, facing away from them, trying to calm down. "Dad?" Jenny asked, curiosity in her voice. "Why did you both pretend to not care about me all this time?" I questioned them. "What did I do to make you think it was okay to push me away?" I looked at them, my eyes filled with pain. "How many times did I cry after leaving you a message, knowing you didn't care about getting back to me?" Jill hesitated, then spoke up. "It's because Mom told us if you thought you were losing us, you would get back with her, and we could be a family again. We're so sorry." I turned to face them, and Jenny quickly hugged me as she saw the tear on my cheek. "Dad, please forgive us. We were told that you left us and wouldn't pay for college because we wanted you to stay with her. She said the messages were just for the divorce, to make it seem like you were being nice for the judge. Did you really do that? And you believed her? Dad, think about it. We were with her every day, hearing her defend her one-time mistake against all the love we shared for 20 years. We thought you were being unfair. Would you want your partner to cheat on you?" There was no answer, Where do you draw the line? 1 time, 2 times, 5 times, tell me. We hugged, and their embrace brought comfort. I felt guilty. I'm sorry, kids. I've missed you so much. After they each expressed their affection for me, I said, It's time to get you back to school. You've got classes starting tomorrow. Don't forget to mention the memorial service and funeral to your teacher. You'll need some time off this week. We hugged once more, and I watched them leave, feeling my heart warm. I looked to the sky and said, You didn't have to bring them back, Mom, but thanks. I'll miss you. Wakes have always been difficult for me, as I feel uneasy sitting in a room with a deceased person. My mom's wake was especially challenging. I approached the casket several times throughout the day, looking at her. She appeared peaceful. I was glad she'd be reunited with my dad. Several years ago, he lost a battle to cancer. He requested a unique memorial service with no wake, as he found the idea of people gathering around a corpse odd. Meanwhile, his mother had meticulously planned her own service, even choosing her coffin. All he had to do was arrange the date and handle minor details about the room setup and ceremony. He appreciated her foresight. As he stood at the front of the room, one of his mother's friends approached him. His daughters, accompanied by Katie, then entered the room, each giving him a heartfelt, tearful hug. Katie whispered a prayer before placing a cherished photo in the casket. The image depicted me, Katie, and my mom, with our arms around each other, and Katie holding our babies. Her smile was contagious. As I gently set the photo beside her hands, I couldn't hold back my tears. The minister began the prayer service, and although Katie remained at the back, her warm connection with everyone was evident. The family sat in the front row of chairs as per protocol. The girls were on one side, and Misty on the other, but it didn't feel right. I turned and saw Katie in the back, wiping her tears. It didn't feel right to leave her there. My mom would have wanted Katie up front too. I walked to the back and took Katie's hand. Come to the front. You don't have to hide back here. She sobbed and hugged me, whispering, Thank you. We walked to the front, and Uncle John gave up his seat for her, next to my daughter. You're a good friend, Bill, Missy murmured, giving my cheek a light kiss. It was an unusual sensation, holding Missy's hand while my ex-wife was nearby. I hoped I wouldn't regret it, and that it wouldn't cause problems later. As we were bidding farewell to the last guests, Katie approached me. With Missy beside me, I wondered how Katie would react. I hoped she would respect my mother's wishes and not cause any trouble. Thank you for inviting me to be part of the family today, Bill. It means more to me than you can imagine, she continued. I'd be honored to ride in the limousine with you, the girls, and Missy tomorrow. She pulled me into a tight hug, and tears streamed down her face. I felt Missy's hand gently touch my back, and I couldn't help but worry about a potential confrontation. Well, Katie said, breaking away from the embrace, if you don't need anything else from me, I'll head out. I shook my head, and she offered a brief smile to Missy. I'm glad you're here for him. You may not know this, but he was a mama's boy. It's going to be tough when he realizes she's gone. With that, she left the room. Missy wrapped her arm around me and said, Let's get you home. I walked into my house, relieved the day was over. Missy was sitting at the kitchen table, and I handed her a cold beer. I think everything with Katie went better than you expected. You handled it well, she commented, as we enjoyed our drinks. I'm relieved. I thought she might cause trouble with you. The girls must have helped keep things calm. We just need to get through today and everything will be okay. I hoped she was right. I couldn't shake the feeling that Katie wouldn't handle interacting with Missy well. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Will you stay with me tonight? I asked. She smiled and held my hand. You couldn't get rid of me even if you tried. We didn't engage in any intimate activity, but she spooned with me, and it was the best sleep I'd had since the divorce. You're watching me closely. I promise I won't misuse your ability by starting a fight, Katie said, as we waited for the prayer to begin. I know that, I replied, even though it wasn't true. It's just unsettling for me. She scoffed and inquired, How do you think it feels for me? I'm the outsider here. I furrowed my brow. No one sees you that way, especially not today. I'm truly sorry, Bill. I wish I could erase what happened. I wish... She began to cry and quickly retreated to the restroom. It's tough on all of us, Bill, my mom's friend Jean consoled, patting my shoulder. Your mom was a wonderful woman, and we'll all miss her. I kissed her cheek and expressed my gratitude, relieved that Katie had my mom's cover for her emotional breakdown. After the funeral, we gathered at my mom's favorite Polish restaurant for the post-funeral meal. The room was filled to capacity, and Katie appeared uneasy as she searched for a seat. I approached her once more, taking her hand and guiding her to the table where I sat with Missy and my daughters. Katie, no matter what happens, we'll always be family because of the divorce. A tear rolled down her cheek as she sat and expressed her gratitude. I don't remember when I got over the pain she caused, but it felt like I was finally past it. Time moved forward. The girls went to college and called me every week. Missy and I are still a couple, and I'm thinking about proposing soon. Katie and I don't talk much, but we're polite. She's moving on too, dating a divorced dad of one of the girls' friends. He's a good man. I hope they find happiness. Some might say I should have forgiven her for what she did, but I can't find it in my heart to do so. In the eyes of some, that might make me a bad person,